durable lineup, and again, we saw a lot of Brave Smite, you know, as we get to talk more about the emblems ahead of us. But just the way that things kind of work out, you've got to have an answer for it. And I think even from hearing, like I said, the coach from Kazakhstan, they're ready. You know, they've prepared. So what more a test against the dark horse of the tournament?
Yeah, from the interview as well of the coach of Kazakhstan, they're respecting everybody here in this tournament and also having that confidence to not fear what they're up against, no matter what team. So this confidence, they're coming in from momentum. We will see now how it will translate this gameplay or their gameplay in their own matchup with Mongolia, because as of now, we're looking at just stats completely with Mongolia, and to compare it with our experience here coming in Riyadh, it's like tasting chicken biryani for the first time right here.
It's a surprise.
In Saudi Arabia, it's a surprise, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
They just want to keep eating it all over and over again.
I think that's what a lot of people felt like when they saw, if they were able to catch one of the streams in the other languages where, you know, Mongolia was playing. People were like, wow, this is crazy. Because again, you had glimpses of them before in the past, right? But obviously things change, especially where we are in the current state of the game. But I think that's something that can be said. Also, we have to talk about the likes of YSS popping up once again, Yisun Shin and Novaria, Novaria has been banned out most of the time, right? And the fact that you have that combination, which we've seen them, if you've caught the stream before, you've seen them opt for that. So I'm wondering, again, does Kazakhstan just handle that with the draft? Like, do they just take that option out, but then do they kind of close themselves into fighting against one of those sustained compositions, though? Because YSS, we saw that banned once so far, at least for the live stream matches.
And Kazakhstan did that.
Yeah.
That was their last ban up against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ban out the Ling, ban out the Hayabusa, also the Cho, though, which is a comfort pick for Troll.
Yep.
So we might see a different way of prioritizing their own comfort picks over the power picks of Mongolia, but they're the only sole team to ban out the YSS. And in this current meta that we're talking about over and over again, it makes a lot of difference. YSS could be back in IESF.
Well, vision's everything, right? I mean, that's one thing, and that's the reason why, again, there's been kind of this rise with YSS again, because of just the way, you know, you are able to provide vision to your team, but then you pair that up so well with the Novaria, and it gets to the point where it's like, all right, they have way too much vision. How do we even get out of our base? Because that ends up what it feels like, right? And it's something to definitely handle here, which I said could be quickly taken care of if they just take out Novaria, for example, from the draft. And this is something that we've seen a lot of teams just opt to do, right? Just go ahead and ban it out. If they want to give up the YSS, feel free to, because even if, let's say, the YSS slips through, I still think we could possibly end up seeing that same combination just because Angeling is on the rise again. You know, the resurgence of that combination is here. So, and really, if you think about it, and we were trying to kind of break that down yesterday when we saw that come up so much, is what is the answer for the mobility, at least the mobility and the sustainability? Hopefully, like I said, one of these teams kind of figures that out and presents itself over the course of today and tomorrow.
Yeah, we haven't seen a great Bane game in the jungle yet.
His best game was in the gold lane.
Gold lane. Just put him in the gold lane, and that's how your crab will work. The crab claw cannon, which can function as well as a good marksman here in the gold lane. As you say, non-traditional picks could show up again and again as the day goes by. And most of the teams here has the priority ban mostly on their own picks. We see Kadita, we see Cho, we see Kaja. You've mentioned about Novaria. We haven't seen Novaria paired up with something deadly. If he gets paired up with as well as the YSS, we're talking about combos here being made. Duos, like we can either see a meta pick that might show up, and that are just completely possibilities of what we might see on this kind of match.
Well, like I said, too, you got to have some of that change up in the mid lane. We saw a little bit of that, right, with the rise of Lilia coming to form and a couple of the other options, too. More so, though, people are just opting for those typical picks like the Eve, the Farsa, right? But this is, again, it could be part of that solution to deal with the way things are kind of falling into place. And also the kind of debate whether, once again, should we take these marksman picks in the gold lane or should we change things up, right? Because what we are seeing is some struggles even. For example, if you're parking a Wanwan there or a Beatrix in lane, and you have to go against. That's why I said the Bane shines so well, right? Because the Bane was played into the Beatrix, and it was just it was an easy time for the Bane to farm up, get the gold he needed, and by that time you have a lot more of that kind of presence around the map, right? As a gold Bane, I feel like
mobility.
Yeah, in the
you
jungle,
have the knock-up.
It's not so good.
Yeah, it's a working meta as we
A work in progress.
A work in progress. It's fine. It's okay.
Bane will get there.
He will. He will. He might get a good revamp as well. So we might see a different approach for Bane as the day goes by. But to mention more about how Kazakhstan is going around with their own meta, they use Clint that we haven't seen for
That was
such a
questionable
time.
too, though.
Yeah, they have their own ways. They have their own flavor, and as well as they keep on. They wanted to keep on using the Selena, and it works. Completely works from over and over again. And to answer more of your speculative question about the global scale of an assassin heroes being showed up on all of our matches of today, Selena is one great one to actually cover a lot of places in the map. Have that burst, have that early game poke, have that early game momentum. And as far as we can see, that it's just the mid lane. You're right. You have the Farso, you have the Selena. More of the options of Kazakhstan to actually show up or maybe turn something or pick something new for against Mongolia.
The hardest thing here is just kind of playing around the snowball potential that we're in, you know, and that's something, like I said, we have to see from even for the rest of the games here, right, is because what we saw from day one and day two, at least from even from Kazakhstan's games, is games can end pretty quickly if they get out of control. So yep. I feel like one of the biggest things that has to kind of happen here is handling these momentum-based strategies, right? Because and you mentioned Selena. Now, is Selena that? Is it the hero to kind of help with that? If you're landing the arrows, sure. It's almost like we were talking about the Franco, right? Where you have those hooks and they were just on point whenever. If the Franco is drafted and the hooks are on point, just like the arrows would be on point, then yeah, it's great. But if you're missing them, and then you're not able to follow up because that's really how it works, right?
Well,
you have a little bit of vision with the with the traps and whatnot, but really it's the arrows, just like the hooks.
Either hit or miss, but you don't have the chance to have a quick millisecond response to have that team fight back at you. Because if you have those ways of having a good Franco game, you're having a good Selena game, it's a good way of dictating all of your team fights, but not missing them. As far as we go with the stats here, by just looking at the numbers, they're completely doing well with their own Franco hooks in our matches in IESF. And as well as the Selena. Yes, the start wasn't that good, but continuing their days and the matches as the time goes by, it gets better. So those are the possible ways of dealing with the Ling, the Angeling that we're seeing. Also the Alpha as well.
Yeah.
that we've seen from Team Philippines. And a lot of metas are showing up that can actually be in par with our drafting for the first match of the day.
They got the finger sleeves. You know, that's how you know they're ready. Because most players too, you see them using powder and whatnot, but when the sleeves come out,
it's a different thing.
It's a different thing.
It's playoffs mode.
It's exactly. It's playoffs mode.
For Mongolia.
Yep. And now, going back to that point too, is I love that the Alpha, has shown up again. I love that these heroes that typically weren't picked for the longest time are now showing themselves, right? And I think one of the biggest things too is just still we have more to see. There's more to come, for this tournament, because even the fact, like you mentioned, we saw Khalid come through. Yesterday we saw Few go ahead and pick Fredrin in the mid lane.
Fredrin that we not expected because it was so flexible that it's being used in the EXP or the jungle. Now we're back in the draft.
Love it. We're talking about the Angeling combo so much, and you just completely get rid of it, the possibility of it. Just take out the Link. There's the Selena. Homework is done. Again, this is day 3. We're the first day of the playoffs.
Okay.
There's so much information that they can build on and work on here. Now, Novario being taken out helps with that strategy we were talking about with the YSS Novario strategy that Mongolia likes to possibly do here or thinks about doing. Another thing is I wouldn't want to give away maybe the Charizla, right? I'm not sure if that's first pick territory for Mongolia for Aizen, but let's see if this last ban is towards that from Kazakhstan, because Kadita was taken out, alongside that Selena. So they're really kind of narrowing those options now.
Homework is showing up for Mongolia, banning out Selena as well as the Kadita. Kazakhstan used this against Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now comfort picks are being targeted with their mid lane player and trimming down more of the choices. So opening up the Cho as well for Kazakhstan. As you said, what would be the first base of choice for Kazakhstan? And it will depend on their final, not because their second pick. What is the trade that Mongolia is willing to give? Because at some point, yeah, you've mentioned about Tirizla. Will Kazakhstan take out the Tirizla, which has been a massive power pick for Mongolia? They're letting it through. And will this be a Tirizla prio pick for Mongolia? But there's a lot of things at the table present for this one.
Even the way, like, let's say Tirizla does get picked up in this first priority pick, I think you still have quite a few things that you can do to handle that, to counterplay around. Biggest thing you have to just watch out for is really that initiation from him, and I think that's something that works so well. At least when you see the synergy coming through from Mongolia, that's what's noticeable, right? So we'll see what the game plan for them is too. They still have even Eve available if they want to go ahead and park that in the mid lane. Again, just one of those heroes that is commonly picked in the early phase of the game because it's such a safe option. It provides you a ton of utility to work around your objectives, and also the damage is pretty respectable too. There it is, right? There's the Eve, like we were saying. This is probably your best option. This also would possibly force Kazakhstan to think about taking up the Farsa, right?
Yeah.
If they really want to go ahead and go with that matchup, because then your mid lane is kind of this standard, you know, push and pull. And now, I don't know where that trend has developed, but now we got other players flexing too.
Yeah, speaking of flexing, now they've taken out the Eve. Kazakhstan right now probably might think of getting their EXP laner now, and also a marksman. Also, yes, they have used the carry as well twice in a row for their first match in the IESF. Yes, we have the EXP laner and the marksman right on cue for Kazakhstan, but this is a Uranus. They're still letting go of the Tirizla.
This is amazing too. I believe this is their captain here from Mongolia doing pretty much the drafting, right? I'm assuming that's what's happening here, and then from what I've heard, he's taking the notes, he's helping the team decide, you know, how to draft this out. They go ahead and just, this is a debut, right?
Wow.
We have Dairoth coming out
up against the Uranus.
Yeah,
perfect.
And we have the Diggy.
And that was completely banned in all of the Kazakhstan matches that we've seen, and this debut pick was Mongolia's edge over Kazakhstan. Now they're taking up the Lancelot.
If they want to go this route, I'm still wondering, right? Because we have seen Dairoth go in the jungle. I'm not gonna say, you know, he's going in the jungle because it would be a great matchup agast the Uranus.
Yes, could
because,
be the
you know,
only one to just completely, as you said, sustaining lineup composition.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is anything that we've learned OSX up to this point is there's flexibility is happening in the current state of the game, and there's nothing, you know, you can't be 100%.
Still don't know yet.
You can be 100% on Eve.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, like carry and a couple of heroes out there, obviously. But with Dairoth, again, naturally seeing him parked in the jungle a couple times, has it been successful? Maybe not so, you know, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. The last band's coming out though too. I like that they answered that Farsa option, taking it out towards Kazakhstan, and then you see too Bane and Nakai is taken out here because they're wondering too exactly what kind of jungle Mongolia wants to go with. If, you know, again, not the high chance that Dairoth is parked there.
Yeah, they're taking out the Bane. There's still no gold lane though for the side of Mongolia, taking out the Akai as well. So there's no jungler yet for Mongolia, and with this kind of option for Kazakhstan, they're doing it. Lunox probably might end. Well, yes, mid lane Lunox for sure. And this opens up more of Mongolia's chances to take the Tirizla now in the second phase. Still open though, they still don't have a marksman. So we have an XP laner and a marksman. Well, we're still hoping for this Dairoth to show up against the Uranus, but let's see how this goes. There's a lot of flexibility showing up from this draft.
If they just take the Tirizla and throw this Dairoth in the jungle, that's going to be a crazy, deadly combination. If the penalty zone is landed and you just line up that Abysm Strike. I'm not sure if that's where we're going with Mongolia. Let's just assume, right, the Dairoth is actually going in the XP lane versus the Uranus here. We'll see, though, because jungle options all have been narrowed, right? Typically that we've seen Bane in the jungle, now you have 4 bans towards that, okay, there's our answer. It's going to be Hayabusa, who we've been wondering up to this point to day 3 OSX, where has Hayabusa been, right? At least on the live stream games. Well, now he's coming out here alongside the Beatrix in the gold lane. The response from Kazakhstan for the last pick is going to be Kaja. This rounds out their lineup pretty well, right? But
yeah,
that's the thing. We have to see if this Kaja can be utilized to the best of its ability, which is just landing the right divine judgments. And we saw that struggle early on in the tournament, right? Where you didn't have those openings, you didn't have the initiation. And not only that too, yes, you know,